Okay, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I continue my lecture still under this concept of global theology being one of the trend in religious pluralism, and this time we are going to look at the ideas put forward by John Hick, the person, the scholar who coined the word religious pluralism, and we are going to see how he interprets religious pluralism, and hopefully we will be able to know the background of this philosophy and the extension of its meaning, in comparison to what we have heard about this philosophy, especially from the pluralists today who discuss religious pluralism away from John Hick's ideas. First of all, I think it is academically unfair to not to have a regard for John Hick whenever we speak of religious pluralism. I mean, at least for objective sake, for academic sake, we should acknowledge that he has done a lot in putting this idea of religious pluralism to the intellectual the intellectual setting, and develop the discourse. And from there, how this concept evolved, can be discussed, can be further deliberated, but not without having to regard or having to give credit to John Hick. Yeah? Okay, now because we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I think at least 7 items to be discussed under John Hick in this very short video clip. So I have to rush. Hopefully I can make it within 30 minutes. Okay, John Hick put forward the idea of religious pluralism as the way of comprehending the ultimate, God the ultimate, in various ways, various interpretations. Yeah. So sometimes people use the analogy of what you call that, different ways, different paths to salvation. There are many different paths to the ultimate truth. Yeah. In his work, he used the words or the phrase, the rainbow of faith. The rainbow of faith. He wrote a book titled An Interpretation of Religion. An interpretation of religion, and in the sense that he wants to promote the different aspect of interpreting the transcendent. This is his very instrumental book in propagating religious pluralism. As a matter of fact, his very first book in propagating religious pluralism, before he wrote the Rainbow of Faith, and later on he under the philosophy of religion, he straight away write a title, Problems of Religious Pluralism. Okay? So he propagates the idea that religion is actually by accidents of birth. It's accidental. While you profess one religion because it's mere by luck, by fortune. So he said religion is a fortuity of birth. And he said that even Herodotus acknowledged this, because Herodotus, being the first historian, he studied about human faith. And he said that, and if you go to Africa, you find that the people view God as such, black, very pointed nose. But if you go to Europe, you find the God, have red hair, fair skin, good looking. Yeah? And if you look at the society at large, the classical society, the ancient society, when they lead a life as hunter, they picture God as a male god, strong and powerful, because when you lead a nomadic life, you lead by hunting animals, you need someone who is strong to lead the people. Yeah? So they picture God as a male, as strong. Yeah. But after sometimes, as men become more matured, more cultured, more settled down, sedentary, established sedentary society, and they started to farm, to plant, yeah, and they started to have the idea that God should be female. Why God should be female? Because when they plant, when they farm, they expect the soil to be fertile, the plants grow very well, because the land, if the land is fertile, then the crops can grow very well. So they value fertility, and women is the symbol of fertility. So God must be female. All right. So Herodotus picture God as the idea of God depending on the societal context. So he said that's how religion came about. So if you're born in Saudi, most likely you're Muslim. If you're born in Malaysia, the likelihood either be Muslim or Chinese, following any of the Chinese traditions or Hindu tradition. If you're in America, most likely that you are Christian. So it's just a matter of coincidental. Now, if it is a matter of coincidental or accident, then how can you sentence these people to hell? So this is what he challenged, especially in terms of the Christian belief that you are Christian because you are given the grace of God. But how does the doctrine of grace explain that man is born in different places of the world and follow the religion of the place? I mean, the doctrine of the grace of God does not explain this. Yeah, just like Wilfred Cantwell Smith, John Hick was trained and ordained priest. Yeah, uh, he was a theologian, Christian theologian, a scholar of a philosopher of religion. Yeah. He started off with theology, but finally he decided, I cannot bring my idea. My idea will not be appreciated by the ministries. I have to go to a different department of philosophy, so whereby my idea can be well appreciated. If you study his story or history, you'll find that he has been excommunicated and has been regarded as heretical because his idea is very controversial to the Christians. Yeah? And another theory or another idea that he put forward that made a great breakthrough in the Christian tradition is this idea of salvation. He challenged the idea of salvation, the doctrine of salvation in Christianity, whereby, the traditional idea of Christianity or doctrine of salvation, say that if someone is saved if he become a Christian because he confess or he believe in Jesus Christ, crucified, yeah, and then ascended to the heaven, resurrected and become God incarnated. And he died on the cross. Why? Because he wants to save men from the original sin. So if you believe in Christianity, you are saved because Jesus has saved you. So these are the traditional understanding of salvation. But John Hick challenged this traditional understanding. He said that this is very exclusive way of extending the meaning of salvation. We should move out from this traditional and exclusive understanding. Again, I use the word exclusive here because obviously Wilfred Cantwell Smith and John Hick has the same idea, same dissatisfaction on exclusivism as an important position of Christianity. Yeah? And he said that we should transform, we should change the meaning of salvation. We should move out from looking into ourselves alone into looking at the others. So he said that we have to transform the idea of salvation from looking into Christianity into looking at God. From reality-centeredness to God-centeredness. That Christianity is not the only religion in this world. We are not at the center of the universe. There are other religions in this universe, and we, together with them, are in this universe looking at God or adhering to God and interpreting to God based on our traditions. And he used the analogy of, Ptolemaic theology of, Copernicus theology of religion. This is what he used in propagating the idea of transformation. Uh, Copernicus theology of religions against Ptolemaic theology of religions. Well, actually, you know that Copernicus and Ptolemy, they are both not theologians. They were scientists, astronomers. They studied the earth. They studied the universe. Now, Copernicus in the first century or second century propagated the idea of heliocentrism, that geocentrism, that the earth is at the center of the universe, while the sun and the whole planets, the rest of the planets revolve around the earth. So the center, which is the earth, is the real from that context. Yeah. And Copernicus in the 15th century, challenged this idea. You can just imagine, it looks like the Christians, scientists, 15 years to acknowledge, to notice, to discover that it is the sun at the center of the universe and not the earth at the center of the universe. I mean, that's kind of scientific discovery they managed to discover in the 15th century. So you see, Copernicus said, no, it's not the earth at the center of the universe, it is the sun at the center of the universe. The earth, together with the rest of the planets and the moon and the stars, revolve around the sun. Now, what this astronomical concept of the universe had something to do with theology? Yeah. So Hick is trying to say that now let's do this transformation. It's not easy to do this transformation, but hey, for about 14 and 15 centuries, people have been believing that the earth is at the center. Now we know that we are not at the center, and the same goes to Christianity. Christianity is not at the center of the universe. Christianity is just like any other planets in the universe revolving around the sun. And in the context of religions, what is the sun? The sun is God, which means that all religions revolves around the God, and all religions are offering different interpretations of the God, including Christianity. So he said this is a must. Only by doing this transformation of idea of reinterpreting salvation can Christianity change its exclusiveness into, well, at least if not pluralist position, to inclusivist position, to give some leeway in his perceptions of the others. Because, well, if you look at his biography, you find that John Hick was so much influenced by the diversity of the people where he lived. He lived in Birmingham, and he get to mingle with people of different religions. He joined one of the NGOs activities, whereby the Muslims, the Sikhs, the Hindus, they were helping of each other. So being a staunch Christian, he could no longer accept the idea that all these good people from different religions, they are going to be condemned. The only way that he can justify for the idea of salvation that is relevant to them is that these people have their own path of salvation. And they believe in the God, but they have different definitions of the same God because they are using different paths. It's a matter of using different paths to arrive at the ultimate. Yeah, but of course, for Christianity, they need a lot of transformation because they have been embracing this idea of salvation, traditional idea of salvation, of exclusivism for more than 14, 15 centuries. Yeah, and to justify this idea, John Hick actually benefit or inspired by Immanuel Kant, because Immanuel Kant speak of two concept of the real. This is phenomenological approach. Two concept of the real, which is the real an sich and the real. So the real an sich is the real that is absolute, that is beyond human comprehension. And the real with a small r is the real that is that can be addressed by human reasoning, that can be addressed by the human senses. So according to John Hick, every religion interpret the ultimate in the context of the real with small r, whereas the real with capital R, the real answer is not known to people. Okay, so this real answer is at the center of the universe. It is not known to people. And to further justify this, John Hick, he also benefit, or he also capitalized from the from mysticism, because scholars of mysticism who use esotericism, mystical approaches, have been talking about appreciating differences of religions, as um, different faith, different path to God. Yeah? For example, you have heard, maybe you are familiar with such poems from Rumi, from Ibn Arabi, from Ibn Arabi, who says that the lamps are different, but the light is the same. They come from beyond. The story of Rumi about how the blind men are trying to define an elephant, whereby this 7 or 8 blind men holding different parts of the elephant and defining elephant from the part that they have access to. And John Hick used this analogy, saying that the way we interpret religion is just like that blind man. We cannot comprehend the rest part of the definition because we are only so caught up with that particular part. Yeah. So it is interesting to find a philosopher, a theologian, trying to justify his philosophy using mysticism, but that's how John Hick, managed to extend his idea of religious pluralism. And another idea that he put forward that, very controversial to Christianity definitely is when he interprets or reinterprets the doctrine of incarnation. I believe all of you are familiar what is the doctrine of incarnation in Christianity. This doctrine of incarnation is, first introduced by Saint Paul, who believed that Jesus Christ, after the crucifixion, was ascended to the heaven, and then he appeared in front of his disciples 40 days after that ascension in the Pentecost, and he was resurrected, yeah, and in the resurrection he was persuaded his companions or his disciples to continue to preach his teaching, yeah, to continue to preach his teaching, and then he has become God incarnate. God has incarnates in his body, and he become, I don't know, maybe half God or full God. Maybe he was half God when he was in the world, and now he become full God, or maybe half God because half of the God is Han, half of the God is the real God, and another portion of the God is God of the Holy Spirit. I mean, I'm so sorry I cannot explain this Trinitarian doctrine to you because I'm not a professed Christian, yeah, but maybe if you want to get a clear picture, the idea of incarnation, you should ask a Christian. But that's how this concept of incarnation is presented in many of the literatures. Yeah. So what about John Hick? So he said that we should no longer believe or the idea of incarnation in this respect, but we have to take incarnation as metaphor. Metaphor in the sense that it's not the real Jesus incarnated. So Jesus did not come in reality. What came after his crucifixion, after his death, is his love. His love enveloping human being. His love for all mankind, and that's why he was willing to sacrifice himself. So incarnation is the love of God enveloping human being. embracing human being. And this is what incarnation is about. To the extent that even in the mass gathering, John Hick rejected the idea that when they are conducting the rituals of Eucharist. Yeah? So the Christians, the traditional Christian conventional understanding of Eucharist is that, the drinking of the wine and the eating of the blood is actually, the drinking of the blood, the wine and the eating of the bread is the real drinking of the blood of Jesus and eating the flesh of Jesus. And he said, hey, come on, these are all metaphorical, these are all symbolical. And this should be the way of understanding that rituals, not literal, literally the blood of Jesus and the bread as the flesh of Jesus. I mean, this understanding should not be there at all. So he said that, look, we have to understand Christian theology in metaphorical terms, because without this metaphorical understanding, you are going to stay exclusive. And another idea that he put forward is that he was also influenced, inspired by Ludwig Wittgenstein, because Ludwig Wittgenstein used a semantical approach when discussing knowledge, when presenting knowledge, when defining terms. So he said that, well, actually the different religions that exist in this world is just a matter of linguistics, a matter of language. Like you call God in different names because it's a clash of language, because it depends on the languages that you use. So you describe God in the term that are familiar, the term that you are using. So these are actually, according to John Hick, is a family resemblance concept. So you speak of God as Allah, as Trinity, as Nirvana, as Moksha, as Mukti, so on and so forth. These are all a family resemblance concept of God, of religion. So so that there is no need of quarreling and discarding each other belief system, because these are all human interpretation in the first place. You see, if Wilfred Cantwell Smith is propagating world theology, John Hick is propagating religious pluralism and all these conceptions or ideas to substantiate the so-called idea of world theology promoted by Wilfred Cantwell Smith. That's why I said that, Wilfred Cantwell Smith provides the platform for John Hick to advance his ideas further, because if you can accept religion as culture, as traditions, yeah, then there is no restriction for you to interpret it, because it's supposed to be dynamic, yeah, it's supposed to be relative, it's supposed to be subjective. And John adds some more flavor to it in the sense that this has to be theologically accepted, in the sense that human has different interpretation of God. In reality, every religious man believe in God. It's just a matter of they have different paths to the same God. And because of this different path, we should not be disqualifying each other path, because they are simply human interpretation. And that's the reason why he wrote that book. And interpretation of religion, human interpretation of the transcendent. Human interpretation of the transcendent. So basically, people interpret from John Hick that he regard all religion as equally the valid truth, equally the accepted path to the same truth, except that every man has different interpretations of the truth. Some scholars regard this approach as bottom-up approach. You see that bottom-up in terms of human looking up to the sky, interpreting God and giving different interpretations based on their context, based on their culture, based on their traditions to know Him. And because of that, they shouldn't be blamed. They shouldn't be blamed. They shouldn't be disqualified, because these are simply human interpretations. Don't ask me where revelation is all here. John Hick did not speak of revelation, because that's why I say when secular humanism came into place in the 18th, 17th, and 19th and 20th century, more ideas came to fit in secular humanism, and in this context, global theology also is to serve or is serving secular humanism in the sense that interpretation of religion is made purely from human perspective, yeah, purely from phenomenological perspective, sensual perspective, rational perspective, and whatever you call as religion is beyond one comprehension, and let it be at your own personal your own personal experience and conviction. So that's about it with regard to religious pluralism, and this is how John Hick make it that religious pluralism should be the theology, the global theology, the theology of the 21st century, 20th century, 21st century, because this is the only way for you to pardon, to accept religious diversity. But bear in mind, this conception has its roots in the Christian dilemma of understanding differences of religions. And I mean, if you look at how this happened in the context of Western civilization, you will find this very true, that religious pluralism is basically a response towards a Western understanding and conception of religion. Whether this is compatible to the other contexts of tradition, and Muslim tradition, Hindu tradition, Buddhist tradition, we're going to analyze this later. But at the moment, I think it's fair enough for all of us to have a very objective and neutral idea about what religious pluralism as propagated by John Hick. Thank you very much. I'll see you again in the next video clip. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.